Okay, thank you. Thank you all for joining tonight. This is an optional lab for PSC 603. This is for anybody who has any particular questions regarding lab assignment 3 on revenues. I do have the assignment up on my screen, so I'm happy to go to kind of talk through examples. Want to make sure you do the work, but I'm happy to kind of walk students through anything that they may need some help with. So if anybody has any questions that they would like to ask, fire away.
Professor Hunter, it's Angie Robertson.
Yes.
I have two questions.
Okay.
For the lab assignment that we have that's due this week,
Yes.
where you have no change. So what, line 17? Does that mean we don't do anything with that one, or we keep it the same amount that's there?
That means you just leave it alone. Yes.
Okay. All right. And then my
Just
other question. Okay.
Go ahead.
Just leave it alone.
Yeah, just leave it alone.
At that amount.
Just leave it at what it is currently. Yes.
Okay. And then my other question is about the email you sent about the topic paper.
Yes.
Can you explain a little more about that?
Sure. So what specifically are you wanting to know? I know that's a hard thing to ask. I'm sorry.
Is the topic paper an individual assignment or is it a group?
Yes, it is. It's designed. It's meant to be an individual assignment. Yes. So that's number one. It's an individual assignment.
So it's an individual assignment. That's number one. Okay. Go ahead, Darla. Go ahead. Whoever said that, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to ask. This is Linda Alexander, LK Alexa. Okay.
Okay.
I was just going to ask, as I've read it, everything that you want to know in the paper is coming from chapter 8 only?
No, it's the concepts that I want you to use are in chapter 8. So like when I talk about some of the features, I was just using that as a reference to say these concepts, like talking about horizontal and vertical equity and other externalities, or talking about administration, those concepts are in chapter 8.
Okay.
But you still got to do the work, and you should be able through the various, because I think y'all have access to JSTOR, correct? Yeah. So you have access to journal publications and those type of things. So what I want you to do, and also you can look online for resources from other sources, but you should be able to find plenty of information. I know it's out there. Plenty of information about these revenue sources that can talk about how they are with respect to those particular areas. So there should be research out there that you can look at that explains horizontal and vertical equity of each of those revenue sources.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
Like, what do you mean by administrative process? Like, if I choose the topic of marijuana sales taxes, do you mean how states levy the taxes?
Yeah, basically, just basically evaluate it from an administrative process. And that just kind of gets, because all taxes, there has to be administration to them. And it's talked about to some degree in chapter 8. There has to be, and there also may be additional information in the text that may be of reference, like the ones that deal with sales taxes, whether it be with gambling or it be with the legalization of marijuana or electric vehicles. I'm sorry, gambling is more of an income tax. I apologize for that. But those are, there are aspects of administration that you can study about it, that you can look up and find information about that as well. What I realized and what I needed to do was based on the way that the syllabus was written when I got here and what I inherited, was I had to do something that involved y'all doing some degree of independent research. And I wanted to frame something that would be doable within the time frame that we had available. I did not want to make it to be due on the same week as the group projects. I wanted to make sure that they weren't all due at the same time. One, from a grading perspective, that would be difficult. And two, I wanted to give you all time to be able to focus on the group project. So that's why there's a week's difference. But and also for those of you who have been working on the project on that paper as previously defined in the syllabus, you still have that option, and now you have a couple extra weeks to work on it. But I got the feeling in some conversations I had with students one-on-one who had reached out to me that everybody was kind of at a standstill. And I realized that was my fault to a large extent, because I said I was going to focus on it. I was going to bring up some additional information, and I did.
My question is on the lab assignment. So
Okay.
It says when creating the pivot table that we should add a column for FY23 let me just get that. FY23 proposed, but in the worksheet it says FY23 request. Are those the same?
Yes, they are. Yes, they
Okay.
are. Thank you for pointing that out. I apologize for that.
That's fine. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Professor Hunter. And for the pivot table for the lab assignment also, I just want to make sure I'm right, is for the rows, the only thing we should have in that, so like when you click and drag down, the only thing we should have there is category, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Professor Hunter, so we will submit a group project, correct? And the presentation was supposed to be in April 20. So will we get some information about this project? Like, because I don't think that any of us have started yet.
Okay, now I understand the problem, because somebody had asked it, because somebody brought that up. So basically what you're saying is that, okay, so what I may do, I will look at that tonight and report back tomorrow on the group project. What we may do is I'm trying to think here, I might not do the group project. I'm not saying we won't. Yeah, I see that. But we may, I'm gonna go ahead and say right now, we're not gonna do the group project. Thank you.
Thank
you. Okay.
Goat status.
Nah, don't do that. Because now I got to figure out, I have to rebalance the grades. So I will let you guys know how I do that. I'll distribute it. I won't put it all in the final, but that's a fair point. And again, that's what happens when you change. That's what happens when you change professors in the middle of a semester. But I will take care of that, and we'll figure out something to make that work. So Jessica, I will look into your issue as soon as I can and let you know, because they should be working. I don't know why they wouldn't, but I will check and find out.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so this email today and the one that you sent a couple of weeks ago when you changed it from live to recorded, I didn't get that either.
Okay, that's interesting. I'll tell you what, let me just look at that real quick, because I think I can do that pretty quickly.
Thank
Hold
you.
on just 1 second. Does anybody else have any other questions regarding the lab?
This is not a question about the lab, but should I wait for any other?
Jessica, can you send me, message me your email address? Okay, Jacqueline, go ahead.
Just to go back to what we were just talking about. So I'm looking at my calendar and I got a little confused because Hoda said something was due on the 20th. Did you? And I don't know what that was.
Well,
But
sorry, go ahead.
oh yeah, no, so I was just wondering, the project that you said that we're not gonna do, that's the budget project, the group budget project?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, because there was an email that I got today that kind of made me wonder if I had missed something, and it looks like I did. And so I've kind of put y'all in a precarious spot and then I kind of put y'all in a precarious spot. So we will still, my intention is that our last class will be on April 25th, because I'll be distributing. So because the only thing I was going to have us do on May 2nd were the presentations. So what I'm going to do is what I'm going to do is on the 25th, we're just going to meet a little later. We're going to start a little later because I have a council meeting at 4, but it's scheduled to be recorded, but we'll do it live. And I will set it up as an end of semester review. And that'll be the last class. The exam will go out on the 26th, and then the exam is due back by May 5th. So that's the deal. But your papers will be due on the 25th. I think that's the date I gave today, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So papers are due the 25th. There's no group assignment. And then our last class will be on the night of the 25th.
Okay, got it. And then for the exam, just while we're on the subject, for the exam, is it the kind of thing where we have that time? Like, is it a thing where it's a timed exam that we open it and have to finish it in a certain amount of time?
No. What I do with my exams is I treat them in an effort to try to encourage my students to develop work product. So the way the exam works is I'll present a case scenario or two, and I will ask you basically to prepare memos similar to what you're going to do for the paper. And so you'll just email those to me by the select date.
Gotcha.
I don't use timing systems or anything like that. They weren't around when I was a kid, and I don't use them. I don't use it. I can understand why some teachers do. It makes sense, but I don't do that.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
Professor Hunter, on the lab assignment, the line 48. Eliminate.
Hold on one second. Hold on, let me go back to the assignment. Hold on one second. You said line 48?
Yes.
Okay.
So eliminate physical, the projection for 22. So just remove it. Is that what you mean? Or
Yeah, you just zero it out. Yeah.
zero it out. Okay, all right. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I have another question. Actually, it's not about the course, like it's about the comps exam that some of us will supposed to take it on April 9th. So
Okay.
will the questions be like the same format of the exam, write a memo or so, or just will focus?
No, the questions on the comps usually are more like essay type questions like you would normally answer on an exam. I don't write comp questions. That's done by that's done by the department. They have shared with me some past ones, but I don't do that.
I'm sorry, like, what do you mean? Like, will you use the same questions, or just, you mean the essay questions? You will write essay questions?
Well, no, I don't have anything to do with comps. From the standpoint that I don't contribute to comps. Comps are developed by the department. And sorry, go ahead.
One thing they were telling us during our reviews or the Zoom study sessions is that most of the time we're going to be going over the different terms. Do you have any idea if there are any specific terms or any information that we really need to concentrate on?
What I can do, and I'm happy to share this with the group, is provide you with a list of what I would think would be terms that would be considered. I can do that and provide that to you, and I can get that to you by tomorrow.
That would be helpful. Thank you so much. Because
Yeah.
our definitions may not comply.
No, I understand. I understand.
So as it stands right now, we have one more lab assignment.
That's correct.
Yeah, the individual assignment, which is either the paper or the memo, which you want to be between 5 and 7 pages, either one, right? And then the final exam.
That's correct.
Okay.
Here's a question about the lab assignment. In the pivot table, I noticed in the example you did for us, you included the fiscal year 22 amended, but then the directions for the one that we just did, or the one that we're doing, it doesn't have that. And I just wanted to make sure that that would be okay. If we don't have the fiscal year 22 amended, we just have actual adopted.
That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I know so Exodus, just to clarify, the group paper assignment has been canceled. So there's two, there are two assignments. The first one is the paper, which I sent out instructions for today, which you can continue, which you can do as a group if you want to under the original plan, or you can do as an individual paper based on the instructions that I gave this morning. Then there will be a final exam. The group project has been canceled.
Yeah, the thing that we were calling the budget project. That
Budget
one.
project, and that's my, okay. Yeah. So are there any other questions with respect to the lab assignment? Okay. Are there any other questions that anybody has at this point?
Oh, I actually do have another quick
Okay.
question. Just because I have the opportunity. So some of the directions say adjust fiscal year 22, and somebody may have already asked this before I came on, but adjust fiscal year 22 to reflect fiscal year 22 year to date. And I interpreted that as not necessarily as just use the same number as the year to date.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct, because in those examples, those are one-time annual payments. And I probably should have made a bigger deal about that when I was doing the explanation last week. Those, sometimes you get revenue on a quarterly basis or a monthly basis, and sometimes with revenues, you get them once a year. Like, for example, ABC revenues from counties, they pay you once a year, and you never know how much it's going to be. You can assume, and based on these numbers, the COVID was very healthy to the ABC stores, but I mean, all the research kind of indicates that. But the reality is that's an example. That's a one-time payment, and that's the challenge that's why I want you to see this schedule, and why I want to use it as a lab assignment. One, to be more comfortable with doing doing this kind of quick projection work, and we'll expand upon it when we get into forecasting, which will be the final lab assignment. But these revenue schedules you see, and this is a condensed list. This is not like all the revenues, like in the general. This is probably half of the revenue accounts in the general fund here at the city that I've posted. And there's a lot in terms of those that are active. There's a lot of other stuff that deals with sales and deals with other stuff that I feel like would be better for me to talk about in forecasting. But you have to deal with a wide variety of revenues. And I kind of wish the text did a better job of explaining it, because the fact is that even though we're limited by state statute in what we can do for our primary revenues like property tax and sales tax, there's a lot of other revenues that local governments generate. And also a lot of revenues that state governments generate. And they're small amounts. It's basically, it gets to be a significant pile once you add up all these little amounts. And that's really what we have to do. And it's part of being able to balance and operate in a fiscally responsible fashion.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions?
So I just keep thinking about how, like, doing this assignment, I was like a little bit over on 1 year. I'm not one category where the fiscal year 22 projected was like a little bit over the fiscal year 22 adopted. So is that, I keep thinking about how, like, we were in the beginning, we were talking about it's not good to be coming up like under your budget all the time. So because it means you're not using your resources wisely. Does that matter in this case, since this is just revenues and there's no expenditures here? Or
it's a good point. When you budget revenues, you want to be conservative, especially with your primary revenues. You want to be optimistically conservative, is a way of putting it. And what that means is you budget with the idea that you're going to hit your marks and that you might go a little over, because that's how you contribute back to reserves. Because there may be a year where you don't hit your numbers, or something may happen that's out of your control, like COVID. Yeah. Because like with COVID, in some of our revenues handled fine, but I lost revenue in other areas. Like if I had revenue coming from operations of parks or recreation facilities or those type of things, all that revenue zeroed out. I mean, I've got a $40 million event center that's supposed to generate $2 million of revenue every year. And, you know, for 4 months out of fiscal year, for 4 months in fiscal year 20, And for 6 months in fiscal year 21, it wasn't producing any revenue. So that can be a significant hit, but you still got operating costs. Even if you're not staffing it, you still got operating costs.
Yeah.
So it's you want to be it's an ebb and flow with respect to it. And you want, for example, I want sales tax and property tax to come in a little more than what I project. Because first of all, that shows that I have growth and that I can then build into next year's budget. But what it also indicates is that you have some cushion there in case you have to increase the budget for some purpose and you don't want to just appropriate reserves. It reduces what you need in reserves. You may be able to contribute back to reserves. It's a little different that like in the corporate sector, if you exceed your revenue targets, everything's great. But if you dramatically underestimate your revenues and you come out way ahead, there may be a problem there in government. So you kind of have to think about it a little bit, but you want to be right to the side of underestimating, just not too much.
Okay, that makes sense.
So
Thank you.
it can be a challenge. And like when I go in, like I'll spend some time talking about this when we get into the area of user fees, which will be in this week's lecture when I get it posted. The biggest area of user fees is utility operations. And that can be a challenge because the forecasting and the projecting of that, not only is it based on the usage, which can ebb and flow, sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it does, but it can also be dependent upon the cost of the product that you're reselling to the customer. And like, for example, there's about half a dozen cities in North Carolina, we're one of them that sell natural gas. And so we have to buy it from the wholesale market and then resell it to customers as a retail product. And if the gas market goes up like it has for the last 9 to 10 months, that poses a big challenge for us because we pay more for gas. We then have to adjust our rates to charge more to our customers. If the weather gets cold in the winter, which is the primary time people use their gas, that adds a cost. It can juggle the numbers up and create some challenges there. So I'll talk more about that when I go into the discussion for the next lecture. Are there any questions?
I was attempting to ask everybody if we had a midterm because I sort of memory hold it, but I figured out that we didn't.
Yeah, if I would have been late to the midterm if we had had one.
I saw it. I went back over the syllabus while this class was going on. And
Yeah,
I saw midterm. I was like, did I really just miss a midterm? Should I just drop out of class right now at this point?
no,
Yeah.
nobody
Shout
missed a midterm.
Shout out to Autumn, who was the one who actually answered my question. I've sent some messages to some other folks, but shout out to Autumn.
Well, no, there was no midterm. Because I can tell you I've done midterms before, but I generally find that they are a challenge. So I made sure that there would not be one in this class. Okay, well, unless anybody else has anything else they want to add. Thank you everybody for tuning in. I appreciate it. Hope everybody feels a little better. And thank you all very much. And I will post the next lecture video for this week. I'll post it hopefully tomorrow. And I'll make sure to get that information some of y'all asked about with respect to questions regarding the comps to everybody, comp terms. If anybody else, if y'all have anything that you need to follow up on, just email or text me. But y'all take care and have a good rest of the night and good week. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.